Who that? Who that? How you guys doing? Welcome to Second Law Sports Network. I'm your host, Devin Johnson, and we're tuning in today after the Saints finally get an impressive 38 to 27 over the Indianapolis Colts. Um, as we stand now today, the Saints are now 4-4. Overall, we're second in our division, and we are eighth in the NFC. Offense. Man, we've been talking about it week now. Talking about our ineptitude, our inability to score, our red zone inability, receivers can't get open, Carr can't complete passes. All of those things were for naught today. We finally saw the offense that the Saints are capable of producing. We saw the offense that we know we can be. And ultimately, we had a game to where we starting to build our identity. I would say that between the deep passes to Shaheed, the power run game with Taysom Hill, we honestly have an answer for all different facets of the field. But let's get into the so the Saints finished with over 500 yards of total offense today. Derek Carr had over 300 yards passing. On the ground, we combined for 160 yards. Alvin Kamara actually had over 100 yards all purpose, which includes receiving, rushing, all inclusive. Taysom Hill had 60 yards on the ground. Jamal Williams had a pretty good game. Um, the defense today, we only gave up. Only on the air, we gave up about 225 yards. On the ground, it was a little rough. If you tuned in early, you saw that kind of getting pounded. We gave up some big runs early to Jonathan Taylor, who, if you don't know, he's honestly one of the best running backs in the league. But eventually we settled down. Taylor actually finished with 90 yards. The Colts second string back, their halfback Zach Moss, finished with about 70 yards. But both running backs actually broke off 40-yard runs. So they really got a lot of their yardage in big chunk plays. So the Saints were able to limit that. We had to play a little bit of bend, but don't break defense, but ultimately we were able to get that under control. As far as the receiving, Rashid Key, man, what a guy. I mean, honestly, you can say it's a bold prediction, you can say that it's an overreaction, but this guy looked pretty close to New Orleans Tyreek Hill, in my opinion. I'm just gonna be quite honest with you. He has speed for days. He's a blazer, he's a deep threat. He literally can take a screen or a drag to the house. You have to account for him wherever he is. So for him to have an 150, can't even say it, an 153-yard receiving day on only three receptions is quite phenomenal. And the ways that he did it was amazing. Chris Olave didn't have the biggest day. He did have a big drop, unfortunately. But he had five receptions for 46 yards. And Michael Thomas, he finished with four receptions for roughly 70 yards. We saw a pretty good day from our receiving core. On the defensive side, Carl Granderson was able to get us a sack. Paulson Adebo had a phenomenal interception. I want to say that was around like the third quarter. And all in all, I would just say we played a magnificent game. Starting from the first quarter, it was pretty rough, as I said. Jonathan Taylor came out absolutely swinging. We could not stop the run. Um, we had a few penalties early. If you remember, we actually did getting a stop, and a costly was an alignment issue. We had a player align over snap on the extra or on the field goal, so that caused us to um basically extend the drive, but we were still able to get a stop. Um, in the second quarter, it was really back and forth. I would say that the fumble that Derek Carr had was pretty rough, considering how well he was playing. It wasn't really much he can do that he could have done in that situation. I mean, the pocket was collapsing, but you would just like to see him hold on to the ball a little bit better. And honestly, outside of that one fumble in the second quarter, which did end up leading to a score, this was the best game that Carr has played. This quite honestly, in all facets, I would say his game management is pretty spot on. I would say that his throwing was good. He was pretty accurate. His decision making. Um, this was in my opinion, this was the card that we really wanted. This was the awakening. Um, Now hopefully we can only hope and pray to look for some more consistency. But the Derek card that we saw today was the Derek card that was advertised to us. The Derek card that we saw today is the Derek card that, if consistent, can actually lead the Saints to prosperity. And this is almost, I'm not going to say this is the only card that we need, but if we want to see legitimate and sustainable success in the postseason, this is the Derek card that we need, quite honestly. So it was great to see him have a bounce back game. Um, Chris Olave, we know he had a rough week. It was great to see him just play and be, focused. It was tough seeing him drop that one catch. Um, Michael Thomas played great. All in all, as far as the offense, it's not really much that I say, and I'm talking so much about the offense because that's really been our weakest point. We haven't been able to be consistent. We haven't, in my opinion, consistently strung together well thought out plays. But the first time, in a consistent span, I would say that we devised a pretty good game plan today against the Colts. They did have some injury in their backfield, but even when it came to utilizing our rushing attack, in coordinates with our passing game, we were pretty good. We basically stretched out different parts of the field. We had some targets over the middle. We were getting vertical. As I said with Taysom Hill, we used his power run game a lot in short yardage situations. Honestly, this is what the Saints are going to have to do in order to consistently win. We have perimeter threats, mostly speed guys, mostly, deep threats and things of that nature. And as far as our running backs, we have a great combination, in addition to having a unique skill set like Taysom. So we have to be consistent in utilizing that, not just, looking to air it out or even losing faith in the running game so quickly. It's all important to have trust in your defense. And that's something that the Saints did today. We didn't start out with hottest of starts offensively, but we were able to grind it out. And it came from all facets. Our defense played well. We picked it up. To say that we gave up 20 points in the first half to only give up 7 points in the second half, I'll say is phenomenal. To say that our offense put up 20 points in the first half is phenomenal. That's something that we don't necessarily see happen for us this year. So all we have to do is just build off of this. We almost put up 40 points. And this is who we are. This is who we can be. And you have to, almost see yourself do it to know that but the Saints can do it. I will say going forward, just noting off of this game, we have to cut down on our penalties. As I stated earlier, we had what nearly was a pretty costly penalty by the goal line, which extended a drive after our defense got a stop. Thankfully, our defense was able to get another stop, but excessive false starts. We had some knick-knack holding and defensive pass interference calls. All of those things have to be cleaned up if we want to be the team that we know we are and we know we can be. So penalties, penalties, penalties. I would say actually the O line played pretty well. I would definitely like to see um just a little bit, more time. Sometimes when we get blitzed, I feel like, Carr panics a little bit, probably just in response to prior weeks of being, consistently harassed in the pressure. But I would definitely like to see us adjust better to some of our blitz pickups, and just running the ball more consistently. I feel like our running game, the issues with it are kind of overblown. I think that the Saints have a decent running attack. I feel like we honestly just give up on it and kind of going off of our lack, or in previous weeks, our lack of, just putting up numbers. When other teams are putting up points on you and scoring you in bunches and you can't score, running the ball is something that's very time consuming. So, a lot of teams, if you're not within the game, or or within arm's reach, it's easy to give up on the running game, just in lack of trusting that you can actually come back, or that your defense could keep you in the game. So for us, knowing that we do have a competent defense, knowing that we do have receivers who can fly, who can separate, get open, the running game only bolsters our production. If you really think about it, um the Saints honestly don't really use play action. If you look at Shaheed's long completion, Shaheed is getting open just strictly off of burning corners off the line. We're not necessarily using deception. These guys are just that good. They're just that good at separating. They're just that good and that fast. So when you add in a running attack, force guys to play more so in the box, forcing linebackers to, you know, actually read the backfield before just vacating and covering the middle of the field, you have to, make the defense play honest by actually making them think. So the more we utilize the run, the more we utilize Taysom Hill. Taysom did have a pretty scary play throwing the ball over the middle to Shaheed. It actually did look like an interception at first. I'm gonna be quite honest with you, but since he was able to corral the ball, get his knee down, and then have the ball taken from him, it actually was ruled a catch. But regardless, even plays like that, the Taysom Hill, like, power, QB run, QB draw, it is highly unpredictable because of Taysom Hill's throwing ability. You know, when you look at the Eagles, you look at even the Colts. You know, teams with dual threat QBs who can throw are extremely dangerous. And I do feel like the Saints should trust Jameis a little bit more using his arm, just because Jameis is accustomed to our system and he can throw the ball. I feel like we don't necessarily see it enough, but he has proven in spurts, even in the games that he started, he was fairly efficient. He gave us passing touchdowns, and he's shown adequate decision making. So that's something that I would like to see as well. Like I said, in this game, the one play he did throw the ball, it was kind of questionable. But even when it's not there, just the ability to be able to scramble is something that we should look at more. Now looking at the defensive side of the ball, things that we can improve on. I did speak towards penalties. Penalties have been a problem on defense as well. We have to clean up some things in the secondary for sure, just the little knickknack, holding penalties, and the defensive pass interference penalties and things like that. Those are penalties that can honestly hurt you. In college, pass interference isn't nearly as costly, strictly because it's a spot foul. So, or it's not a spot foul, I should say. It's an automatic 15-yard penalty. In the NFL, it's not really the same case. If there were some, superhuman quarterback that throw the ball from the one to the opposing one, if you get a pass interference on the opposing one, well, that's now where the ball is. So, they actually had a stat that showed up mid game, and Mark Sanchez commented this, but the Saints are actually the most penalized team, up into this game. We have the most yardage as a result of that. And again, penalties can make or break a game, and that's something that is solely on, not solely, but it's a vast majority of that is on the players. We have to play clean, we have to play discipline, because we can. We're talented. We don't necessarily have to. commit penalties, and then a lot of the penalties that we've committed were just minor, minuscule things, or just untimely. So um, that's one thing. And then, I would say that we need to look at getting some more pressure. I feel like Dennis Allen honestly doesn't blitz as much as he could or should. When you have a cornerback room and a safety room that includes Marshawn Lattimore, that includes Paulson Adebo, Delonte Taylor, all guys who have proven their abilities in man coverage, you should be enabled, encouraged, to send more pressure. Dennis Allen has a lot of instances where on third down, third and longs, he will send three and pray that we're able to get a coverage sack. But in reality, we don't have necessarily the pass rush specialist to do that. Cam Jordan's getting older. Carl Granderson, while, in my opinion, he's a great player, he's a blossoming player. He's not necessarily on the TJ Watt or Miles Garrett. He's not in that conversation yet to just say that he can dominate a side. So know, things work in coordination. When you have good bump and run corners like the guys I just mentioned, it makes it a lot easier to send pressure. You don't need as much safety help, with guys like Lattimore, with Paulson and Debo, just because, they're big, they're fast, they have great ball skills. So which was actually displayed today. Just speaking on the Debo, I want to say that I am extremely excited and proud of the Saints for you know I would say the diamond in the rough findings that they found in the secondary. If you look at just Alante Taylor and Paulson Adebo alone, these guys are starting caliber. These guys are starting caliber corners on other teams. We have Marshawn Lattimore on one side, but if we weren't, or if we were to have, God forbid, Lattimore get hurt, traded, or anything like that, these guys can both fill in on either side. We have Dante playing in the slot, who's been amazing. Adebo, I feel like he got a lot of flack last year. He had an injury riddled year, on top of just sophomore year struggles, I would say. But all in all, these guys have played amazing for us, and they're young. They play hard, they play with a lot of spirit. And in all honesty, there are the pillars of our defense. Our secondary honestly is the pillar of our defense. So building back to what I was originally saying, we have to send more pressure. We can get teams off the field so much more if we just generated more blitz packages, and that comes down to trust. Um, but it also just comes down to being willing to try that. I'm not sure the exact numbers right now, but outside of Carl Granderson, I want to say only one other Saint has two sacks, and that may be Nathan Shepard. The defensive tackle, he got his second sack today, and Cam Jordan. We're not really affluent with pass rushing talent like we've been in years past. So that's something to look at. That's something to look at when we go against teams with better and deeper O lines that also have good passing schemes. That can be a challenge for us. So that's just something to look at. Um, all in all, I would say this was a very resounding win. It felt good. It felt good to see the resilience. It felt good to see our comeback, to see our heart. It felt good to see us score. you know, like just to get the ball in the end zone for one time for every quarter. It felt good. We scored 30 points. So um man, it's only up from here. It's 0-0. We still got a long season ahead. We are officially halfway through, I believe. We're about halfway through the season. Um, well, basically 17 games. We're essentially halfway through. So we got football left. And, this is good film for the team. Great film on both sides of the ball. the Colts were, or they are a good team. Their coach is a great coach. They have a great passing scheme, a great offensive scheme, a budding defense. So this wasn't just a game to just ignore. No game is. Every game matters. Every game counts. And there's a lesson to learn from every game, and there's something to take from every game. So from this game, when I really recollect, and when I still have to study the film and stuff like that. There are three key takeaways for me. This is who our offense can be. Um, Defense is legit. That has been established for quite some time, but our defense continuously every week, in my opinion, finds different ways to assert their dominance. In this instance, I would still be, they did the complete opposite of what they did in the Packers game. We gave up points, but we didn't allow anything in the second half, and that's just encouraging. And three, just the penalties. When we play clean. You play with a balanced offensive attack, and you have a stingy, fast, stifling defense. We're a pretty tough team, and that's three things that you have to hang your hat on. Um, Stick to our offensive identity, stick to our defensive identity, and play team football. And we'll be absolutely fine. We'll be absolutely fine. Um, I like where we're headed. I just it's just about being consistent. So we'll see. But who that, and congrats to the Saints W. I'll catch you guys later.